What the hell? We'll do a bits and bytes here. And if I'm gonna act like an evil genius, I might as well look like one. Get some mood lighting here. That's what I really sets off the evil part. um, I'm thinking about my relationship with technology, lifelong. You know, um, I think about how I grew up in the era of CRT televisions and then computers. So when did I first see a computer? Well, to my father's credit, he being in insurance, I probably sat in front of a computer for the first time when I was, well, grade two, something like that. We had was it 286 at home? Yeah, with floppy disks, the 3.5 inches. Easily. The ever-present dog. Now, what can I say? If we're gonna get personal here. Because I started writing even like the autobiographical parts of these video projects. In those moments of mania coming off of cigarettes, nicotine will screw you right up when you're coming down and coming off it. It's about many studies to support that. Excuse me. But what I was really talking about, or trying to get to, again, this has to do with history propaganda in that moment in Trois-Rivières, in that former nuns convent, trying to figure out how the propagation was happening without any previous study or education. Just having a background in media literacy and history and stuff, and trying to make it more personal, like an encyclopedia of information, communication, and I remember this flash in my head, sitting down in front of an Apple computer in third grade. And my young years, I did some team sports. So we're talking soccer, a rookie ball, and ball hockey. But I was just never really one for team sports, not ever. And I'm watching young Sheldon. I see a lot of parallels between that character and myself. Um, it really struck home, a bit too close to home at times. That's why I'm not watching it right now. And frankly, I'd rather watch the rest of it with someone than binge it and ruin it. That's where I'm at with that. Excuse me. And it makes me think how different my life could have been in some regards, because of how different the teachers treated me in Barrie than they did here in London. Um, it's just a matter, just the way it went, a matter of things. And, you know, think about all the time that I've spent in front of a monitor and a keyboard. And now I have this whiz bang pocket computer and this wearable wrist computer, this thing with a heart rate monitor on it. Just absolutely crazy, how far we've come, and the fact that this is basically a laptop on my wrist for all intents and purposes. The only thing that's missing is a voice activation, and then it's complete. I wouldn't even, it could take calls or send calls. I wouldn't even need um, the phone for what it is, because like, other than web browsing and not to get to any get further into that, but I remember sitting down with my um, aunt Nancy, right, and we were going where they lived in Hamilton for years, uh, on the mountain or whatever. I don't know the area too well. I'm not going to look it up right now. Um, and then in the lower land there, uh, she was a dog breeder. She and her husband John, they bred Shelties, and she had a computer, and I remember it was like trying to load up Mystic Caverns, and these early choose your own adventure video games, right? And then Castle Wolfenstein, like we're talking a couple of years gap in here, because MS DOS, learning MS DOS commands on my own basically. And I remember taking apart our old computer um, when I was 8 or 9 years old, and not knowing exactly how to put it all back together again, much to my father's chagrin. Um, but that's the way it was, right? I grew up with the Lego, that's around me right now. I didn't have these particular sets until much later. Um, and I've had very few close friends consistently throughout life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I don't want to be around too many people. I really don't. Um, and as I'm getting older, I want to be around people even less, admittedly, because it's just so hard to move on from being hurt and used or abused. And again, I'm not claiming victimhood at all, except under the eyes of the law in certain respects. So we'll leave it at that. It's just that technology has always been a better friend in a lot of regards than actual people. And I know there's a lot of nerds out there that feel the same way, because that's just how it is. The tech and dogs most of the time will do exactly what you want them to do without any interference, so to speak, or any kind of attitude, or what have you done for me lately view of the world. you know um, that's what I don't like. Or any what's it, hidden ulterior motives. That's that. It's as an idealistic and probably a very naive person, and much more agreeable in this gap between my teenage years and more recently, coming to the age of maturity within my careers, my pursuits of art and aircraft mechanics, that you come into your own. But obviously you're looking at me, and there's a great possibility of delayed development and self-destructive behaviors. Again, getting very personal here, but that's the point, is that the technology is personal. And so I would say this is, again, another reminder about how much personal information that we put on ourselves and put out there into the internet, and how computers are one of the most powerful tools that we've ever come up with. This, again, I'm fascinated. The novelty hasn't really worn off yet, with this, but I'm still getting used to wearing a watch again. The last time I consistently wore a watch, it was a Timex. It was a sport model. It was gray with a black band, and the the Indiglo, and I had another one before that. Or actually, what was the watch I wore after that? It was my grandfather's after he passed away. It's not the one that's over there. I have no idea where it is now. Nonetheless, that's besides the point. Just thinking about things, and these other computer games, and getting used to it, and because again, I never really had many friends, many acquaintances. I can count the number of friends that I had in my young years up to the age of 12 on one hand. I really can. And it doesn't hurt me. Same way, same thing for all the way through, I'd say up till my 20s and going to university. I really would. You can count them on two hands. And that's it, really. A lot more acquaintances. Um, just out of self-defense, you consider how cruel other children can be, and how little understanding there was of, I don't even know if I am on the spectrum or not. I'm not going to question it at this point. I just think of myself as a very particular introvert, and that's good enough for me, right? I don't question my identity anymore, because there's no point. There's no point in I don't want to. I don't like labels. It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. But I think about delayed development people, or idiot savantism, or what they would have called retardation, or ADHD, ADD, autism spectrum, in that they didn't have support for it. They didn't have as good as an understanding or studies to observe it, to information to back it up in order to implement policies in the school system and differential treatment. I remember that when I moved here to London, I'd rather spend time with the special needs kids than I would other people. That's the truth, just because you just don't really get over how other people make fun of you at that age. And I just didn't have the capacity or the willingness to really move on, because I would go home and I'd play on the computer, right? It's my refuge. Build models in later years after, playing around with Lego, and maybe drawing things here and there. A very good childhood, I would say, if we're going to get into diagnosis here. But I'm not a computer, right? I don't diagnose myself like a computer or other people. Because it can be very isolating, but I'm equipped. I would say I'm better equipped at being alone than other people, and I enjoy it frequently, because then I don't have to deal or worry about the judgmental nature, and the filling of the gaps, right? The assumptions of thought, behavior, or personality. I'm not a big fan, right? Hence why I know to a degree that I'm an INTP with an extroverted part of myself, if you want to call it that, the ENTJ, developed over years of trying to be more rounded person, instead of just being this pointed spear that wants to stab everything. I think a lot of people might understand that. But where I'm going with this is that technology can either be our friend or it can be our foe, right? This is the basis of science fiction, and I'm absolutely steeped in Star Trek and SG-1, or I wasn't a huge fan of Star Wars when I was younger. I didn't quite understand it. It didn't have the same impact on me as, say, like Indiana Jones, or of the era like Karate Kid or Rocky, that sort of thing. Because even then I wanted to fight people. Even then when I was younger, I wanted to fight people. I just didn't know how to use that energy in a productive manner, or where to use it. I would say the emotional aspects, the quick to physical violence at times, but very quiet. My sisters will say this. It's not that I didn't want to speak, or that I couldn't speak. It's just that I didn't want to for many years. But described as very bright by my teachers. Again, I had more interest with computers. Just those flashes in the corner of the classroom. And I'm not sure if I went back to that elementary school. I don't remember the name right now. I went to two of them in Barrie. One of them being Monsignor Clare, and I don't remember the other one because I lived in Oro for a year on a hobby farm, 10-acre farm with 2 horses and a rooster. And this may entertain some people, but in that winter that we were there on the farm on RR2 in Oro, I chose to set up a tent halfway between the house and the barn, because my bedroom, or my bed, was in the basement, and my 2 sisters were on the main floor. And I preferred to sleep outside. That's why I don't have. Maybe that's part of why I'm so hard as a person, is because I don't expect very much. I never did, and because simplicity is best, right? I'd rather, even right now, I'd rather the bicycle than deal with fixing my car or the expenses thereof. And later today, since this is in the morning, we're talking about 3:25 in the morning on where's the calendar? Compass weather alarm calendar. There it is. Today being June 3rd, 2023. So, good old tech now. This will be on my wrist for a long time now. It's just a different era. Reminisce and meditate on it, and hence why I'm so angry, and hence part of the reason and motivation to produce the history of propaganda, because there's just, not to look back with nostalgia, but there's just so much quality of life that has been lost. And it's not because of economics or of trade, it's because of our perception of each other and the replacement. Again, this is nothing new. The replacement of interaction via a third party versus a face-to-face interaction, right? If I think about the psychology and the way I feel about it, and hence why I don't get into long-distance relationships, is that if I'm talking to a woman excuse me, through a phone, and she's sending me pictures and videos and stuff like that through a phone without any previous physical engagement. It's not real. It's not real. It's a fantasy, and I've had my handful of women in my life, to the point where I know exactly. Well, I think I know exactly what I want from her, um, as a person, and again, this is where technology can be an aid or it can be a detractor from the quality of a relationship. And this is, if I'm going to reference Black Mirror and those stories, where those scenarios play out on screen, the convenience has definitely changed. And I'm looking at my PC here, and I've built, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them by now, in different configurations. I've had this Antec case for eons now, and I've taken apart other people's computers and whatnot and put them back together, or whatever diagnosis. And it's just ain't what it used to be. It makes me feel like an old man. Yeah. Technology is not a replacement for humanity. Technology, the tools that we have and we create, this is the warning of cyberpunk, right? And I've said this before, the technology, the tech, this technology that we're developing, this quantum computing, the Internet of Things concept, which is basically this now, right? I'm wearing the Internet of Things right now, with this, this near instantaneous uploading with the bandwidth and the communications of 5 gigahertz. This whole new brave new world, and lost my train of thought. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's right. In the right hands, it's wonderful. In the wrong hands, it's an absolute disaster. But at least it don't have to be isolated. It can have these social conversations with videos, and it'll be there for the rest of time, for as long as the network is up. As a side note, if you're going to watch this, and if this is like a blog post, which just might be, I'm going to put in bits and bytes, technology, hooray. That history of propaganda is on hiatus right now. I don't feel like rocking any more boats in this particular month. Obviously been reprimanded numerous times by the censors on Facebook and Instagram, being flagged by people who are weak and either can't take a joke or can't take the truth. Either or, both very, very depressing scenarios of authoritarianism. And I'm not going to get too deep into that. But again, I think about the thousands of hours that I've spent in front of a computer. Virtuoso in a lot of respects, minus programming. I don't get into programming. I don't like it. It's not my bag. I'm much better with people and software than I am with like using software and like a tech, right, than I am with other things in the hardware. That's just who I am, right? Not everyone's a programmer. What more is there to say? You know, it's that fool's gold, the folly, right? This virtual world, this meta universe, this fantasy realm and escapism, and this self-imposed matrix is not a replacement for love. Just like money, right? Too much of a good thing. And again, this is nothing that hasn't been talked about before. This isn't anything that hasn't been said before. The stories of humanity haven't really changed since the penning of the first letters of the modern English language. So tracing back to Latin, you know, that's what I can say from knowing as much as I do and having sat in front of a computer for as long as I have. You know, was the first time that I sat in front of a computer? Oh, grade 3, it's 6 or 7 years old. In 1992 or 1993, first time that I got onto the internet was around 96 or 97. Yeah. And then the world changed before our eyes like never seen before. Thanks for watching.